Well, the good folks at RENPHO have reached out and asked me to try one of their scales and give you guys my honest review of it. I got to say, there's pros, there's cons, and this company's been great to work with to bounce some ideas off of, some questions off of, and they've given me the go ahead to be honest about what my experience was with their scale. So without any further ado, let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel where we talk all things GLP-1 weight loss and lifestyle changes to live a happier and healthier life. My name is Chris. I've just hit 125 pounds down on my weight loss journey. And let's see, I started May 2025. It is now middle to end of June. So a little over a year and a month, something like that. So we'll say 13 months, a little over 13 months to hit that goal. I'll probably pack a little bit back on. I'm by the time you're watching this, I'm going to actually be on vacation at the beach, probably eating pretty good. But I will be getting steps in. I will be getting a little bit of cardio here and there, of course, hanging out at the beach, hanging out at the pool and all that. And they have a really, really hefty looking gym where we're going. So I'm definitely going to be going there in the mornings, probably lifting some weights, trying to maintain what I can, not trying to make any PRs or anything like that, but going in there and doing what I can. I used to kind of pick at people who did that kind of thing, but I guess I'm one of them now. But that's part of the lifestyle changes that come with making the decision to make better decisions along the way in the weight loss journey. One of those decisions is, again, as I always point out, tracking. So tracking is huge for me, and scales are just one way of doing that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just say, I don't think scales are the end all be all, but they're a great tool. Even tracking your calories, you're never going to be 100% accurate. There's always going to be discrepancies with the app, with the tracking from the company, with the measurements you get if you go out to eat or something like that. It's always going to be skewed a little bit. But you know what? If you're consistent, you're doing better than not tracking it at all. So when it comes to a scale, you can get on a scale, you can see a number and track that number over time, daily, like I do, weekly, monthly, whatever you want to do, right? But there are scales that offer more information than just the general weight. So we're going to get into that now and give you my thoughts on the RENPHO Nova Morphoscan. So this is my review of the Nova Morphoscan by RENPHO. The scale is awesome. I'm going to just go ahead and come out with that. We're going to look at some numbers in a little bit with comparison between it and some other scales. I'll talk about more on that in just a little bit, but just want to go ahead and show you some of the functionality of it and everything. The scale that I bought like a year ago is this Withings scale. I really like it. It has the electrodes in the bottom. There's nothing to hand grip or anything like that, which you'll see on the Morphoscan it does. But this does a really, really good job. This is Wi-Fi. It syncs up with the phone and everything else through Wi-Fi. So you don't have to actively be in the phone and in the app and all that to get your numbers. And again, I've always said this, and I still stick to my guns, that the numbers that you get, even the weight, they're not the gospel, right? These things are going to be off a little from scale to scale. They're always off a little bit just in the number of your weight. But then you look at the fat mass, the lean muscle mass, skeletal mass, all these different things, and they vary from scale to scale as well. I don't think any of them are going to ever be 100% accurate. I'm never going to push a scale and say, you need to get this scale because it's 100% accurate or 94% accurate to DEXA or anything like that. But I do think that having those numbers, and if they are consistent, even if they're off by a little bit here and there or whatever, if they're consistent, you see the trends. And the trends is what I base everything on. This is the RENPHO Nova Morphoscan. It is a beautiful scale. I'll start off with saying that. I actually like the way it sits on the floor, a little bit more level, a little nicer than the Withings, a little bit. The thing about this one, it is a Bluetooth connected scanner or scale. So you have to have your phone with you. You got to have it open to the app to connect instantly and get your data off of here. Now, they have said that if you do that and you don't have the phone and the scale with you when you do it, you can go back later, go in the app, connect to the scale, and it will pull in the stored data. I have done that a number of times, and it has been hit and miss, honestly. There's been times where the information did not pull in for me, and there's times the information did pull in for me. And there's times that it looked like it didn't, but then when I go back and I look at all the different measurements that I've got on the scale, I saw it in there. So I'm a little confused about that. And I will say this about that. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Now, if you already have something like that where you have to have the phone and be dialed into the app and connect Bluetooth and everything for it to work, you're probably used to this. Again, with the Withings, it's Wi-Fi, so I don't have to do any of that. I can just go stand on it, get my measurement in, and then it syncs up to my phone later on, and I'm good to go. All that being said, if you're used to it, it's fine. This may not be a big thing for you. It was a slight inconvenience to me because I've never had to do it that way before. So I was kind of like, it is what it is, right? Then when there were the times that it didn't sync up and I couldn't get the data, that really bummed me out. It's kind of like, and I know, look, I'm talking to people all over the world, and some of you guys are not, probably have the same kind of beliefs and morals and everything that I do. So I'm not pushing any of that on you, but I just want to paint a picture for a comparison. For like, say, a firearm. If you go to buy a firearm, it doesn't matter how accurate it is, how cool it is, the price of it, or none of that. If you need it and you pull it out and it doesn't work because it's not that reliable, is it really that good of a firearm? You know what I mean? If it's not reliable, consistently reliable, is it that good? So that's one thing I'll say about that RENPHO Morphoscan right off the bat as a big con for me. And it is a really big con for me. I can't rely on it to accurately sync up to the phone on a regular basis, to consistently go into the app and sync up, whether I'm right there next to it and I can see the numbers loading on there in the app, or whether I go later to try to back it up from what was stored within. That is the biggest con, and probably really my only con, but it is a very, very big con for me. And I'm just speaking open and honestly about it. I hope the people at RENPHO appreciate that. But that is a con for me. I've seen plenty of other people's reviews, and they really, really like the scale. I haven't heard anybody mention that, so this may just be a one-off. So I do like the scale overall, and I'll get into more of that in a minute. And so if it's something you're interested in and you're considering, I would definitely look at other reviews as well. That's been the only true con for me, is having to have your phone with you, having to have the app open, having to be on the right screen, and, having about a 90%, 80 to 90% reliability rate that it syncs up properly. If not, going back and trying to get it to sync up later. And again, that hasn't been the best either. So those are kind of my cons, but let me show you how the scale works. And let me talk about the things I really, really like about it. And we're going to compare it to the Withings scale that I was just talking about, as well as an Evolt 360 that they have at the new gym that I'm going to now. And I scanned myself on that scale, the Withings and the RENPHO, all on the same day. I did it all around the same time too, but this is the first, instance of running into my con. It did not sync up properly with the RENPHO. So the measurement that I'm comparing it to in just a bit is going to be the RENPHO scale from later in the day after I've already eaten. So it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison. I want to be transparent about that. But it's also kind of the bummer of I weighed myself on the scale. I saw the app working and picking up the measurements and everything, but it wasn't there. And then when I went to go sync it later, it would not pull it in. So again, there's that con poking its head around, but that was the first instance of me running into that, the first time using it, trying to get this apples to apples comparison between all three scales, and I couldn't get it. So that's lost forever, unfortunately. So there's that. But let's go ahead and get into the use of the scale, how it works, and some more details on what I like about it, what I truly, truly like about it. All right. So the first thing you want to do, obviously, wake up in the morning, right after you use the bathroom, barefoot, as few of the clothes on as possible. We're going to step on the scale to wake it up. And of course, make sure it's zeroed in. And again, before you do all this, we're going to go into the app. We're going to open up the app. We're going to scroll to the correct measurement screen and everything. So that way everything is like it's supposed to be for it to work. So once it's zeroed out on the scale, we're in the app. We're going to stand on it. It's going to talk. And then we're going to reach over, grab the handle, hold it 45 degrees out. Weight measurement completed. And then it's going to give us all the information once it finishes scanning us. So this scale has electrodes on the bottom. It has them in the handle. Tells you the measurement's complete. It will show you all kinds of data on there. Segmental fat, segmental muscle, everything like that. I know it's kind of hard to see here. I'll do a better job in the in what's actually showing in the app. I really like the way it looks, but it gives you a breakdown that you can look here. It's kind of goes by quickly, so you want to go back and look in the app and compare it there. There are several things I do like about the app and several things I like about what you can export out of there. Let's get into that. All right, so diving into some of the numbers and everything, this is a great way to compare them, I believe. You've got the Evolt 360 body scan. I've got the readout from it. Withings doesn't have a lot, actually. So this is the most kind of information here I get on all this. So I'm going to use just, there's multiple pages, but none of them really have a whole lot of information. All the body stuff is here. The other stuff is like calories and this and that it has no way of knowing. And then, of course, the RENPHO report is right here, and it's got a lot of information. So we're going to get into those. I'll hit the Withings first, just because this is the scale that I have here at the house. Of course, looking at weight, the morning of the weight that I took this was 260 pounds, BMI 38.6, BMR and all that stuff. Metabolic age of 50, so screw you, Withings. I am 42. I was 41 when I took this, so 50. So thanks a lot, Withings. Really appreciate that. Probably actually not that far off, but yeah. So hopefully we'll be getting that changed before too long, and that number will go down. Of course, the fat mass, the bone mass, muscle mass, all that stuff is on here. Visceral fat is a big one, and again, I don't know how these scales really determine the visceral fat, so I'm not going to bank on those being super accurate. But I guess the numbers I would start out with is just the weight. So I'm going to flip back and forth. So the weight on the Withings is 260. On the RENPHO, the weight is right here, 261.6. And then on the Evolt 360, the weight was 257.9. I can go ahead and tell you right off the bat, the Evolt is a lot more flattering for everything. I think across the board, I want to say, and that could be because it's either more accurate, which would be nice, but it also is at the gym. So everything at the gym, I think, tends to lean toward making you feel better. You know, the calories burned on the treadmills and all that stuff are usually off significantly, but it makes you feel like you did something. So I tend to think that this one is going to be more flattering, and I don't love that because I prefer accuracy over flattery. So as far as this goes, Evolt had me at 257, the lowest, Withings at 260. And then the RENPHO at 261. Now, again, I did do the scan here at 7:20 p.m., which was way later in the day after I realized it did not take my morning scan. So I don't really know what that would have been. I don't remember, unfortunately. So this is with a day of basically activity and eating behind it, including a day of the gym. I want to say I worked out that day. I went and got the scan done. It's going to be kind of hard to compare these side to side. I don't have a great way of doing it. If I move them next to each other, you guys aren't going to be able to really read anything. So I will just bust out a couple of highlights here. So right off the bat, RENPHO's weight's got me higher. The body fat on here has me higher too. It shows the optimal. The cool thing about this, it does show the optimal ranges, and it kind of shows this chart down here and gives you these great percentages and readouts for your segmental fat, your muscle balance. Again, I'm not saying that these are the absolute diehard most accurate things in the world, but man, look at all that information you get from RENPHO. I really, really, really love the amount of information. And of course, as you see here, I'm a big boy. I am overweight, obesity. I am high obesity. So here's a little snapshot of me, guys. I know you don't ever get a full body shot. I just don't have that in me, I guess, but I'll get one before too long. But the RENPHO data, even if it's not the most accurate in the world, the amount of information is great. And I do tend to think it's actually very, very accurate, especially compared to these others. So again, not a whole lot from the Withings. You kind of get the ins and outs of the nitty gritty here. And if that's all you need, that's all you need. And then over to the Evolt again, a lot of information here as well. So body composition, it breaks down everything, visceral fat as well there, intracellular fluid, extracellular visceral fat. Again, down there's your fat level, fat mass amount, visceral fat area. It has almost too much information for me for what I'm looking at here. Here's TEE, something that we've discussed before on the channel, your total energy expenditure, which of course, that goes hand in hand with your basal metabolic rate. So having those together is really, really cool. I like that. And of course down here, it also gives you a pretty good readout as well as far as your fat mass, your lean mass and everything like that goes. So very, very, very similar to what you get on the RENPHO scale. And I got to say, I love both of them very much. The fact that you can do the RENPHO scale every single day at your house is a huge win for me. So again, despite any cons I have as far as, my doubt on overall accuracy of scales in general, not just the RENPHO, guys, I'm not picking on you, I promise. But the issues with syncing up with the app and getting that data and everything like that, again, I can almost completely forget about that because when it does work, it works, and it works very, very well. Look, despite my experience and the cons that I've run into, which are definitely cons for me, they may not be for everyone else. And it may be something that you can work with. And if it is, I highly recommend the scale. I think the information that it provides, the data that it provides is great. As you saw just a second ago, I can't say the accuracy of it, especially compared to other scales, that I can't speak to the accuracy of those either. But again, if you're using a scale and you're being consistent, what you're really looking for is the trend. You don't really have to worry about, what's the exact fat mass that I have? What's my exact, bone density or, water weight that I'm carrying? It gives you an idea. And some of these scales, I would say, I use ChatGPT to just kind of get some thoughts on it. And they were saying that some of the numbers pulled back from certain scales seem like they're more algorithmic maybe than actual measurements. I can't remember which scale was which, so I apologize for that. Of course, it's just an assumption from ChatGPT. Who knows? But I will say, all in all, you're looking at trends, right? You're looking at trends, and having more information is better than having less information. So the number on the scale is a huge measurement of where you're at success-wise or non-success-wise, in the sense of, is it going up or is it going down consistently? Now, there's going to be days, obviously, it goes up, days it goes down a lot, days it goes up a lot, wondering how you've lost 5 pounds in a day. You didn't. You're 5 pounds lighter because of XYZ, okay? Or you were 5 pounds heavier because of XYZ, whatever. You haven't lost 5 pounds of fat in a day, okay? So with that being said, again, the number itself is great for tracking, crucial for tracking, but you should be measuring your arms, your waist, your chest, all the other things like that. And again, having that extra data about the water weight, the fat mass, the skeletal mass, all that stuff, even if it's not 100% accurate, 90% accurate, 80% accurate, it still paints a picture, right? It gives you a picture overall. So I'm not going to sit here and try to sell anybody on a scale. I think the Withings scale is perfectly fine. I love that it's on Wi-Fi and I don't have to sync it up to anything consistently. It just pops in the app whenever, the app gets the signal from the Wi-Fi and everything. I do love the RENPHO scale. I really do. I know I've given it some cons and some things I don't like about it. The things that I don't like are more so with the synchronization with the app and the reliability of that. The scale, every time I've stepped on it, has been reliable. I've gotten on it. It's measured my weight. It's given me the data, at least on the screen, whether it's synced up or not. And if I can get that off of there, it's great. So my only issue really is with the communication between the scale and the app. The scale itself, beautiful scale, works great. I love it. So I would recommend it if you are looking for a scale. If you are in the market right now for a scale that's going to give you more information that you can use on a daily basis, a regular basis, like that Evolt that's at the gym, I can't do that on a regular basis, right? And that may be more accurate, but I can't use that on a regular basis. A DEXA scan, that's $200, $100, whatever, a pop, and there's none near me. I've looked, there's like none anywhere near me. I'd have to travel, and I'd have to, so something at home that you can use to track. Again, a tracking tool. Remember, it is a tool. something to use is the RENPHO scale. Again, if it's something that you're interested in, I do have a link down below that they sent me that you can use. I think we're going into Prime Week from my understanding. So they're going to be running some specials on that. That's going to make sure you get the best special. If you use that link down below, plus it also lets them know, hey, Chris mentioned our scale. Cool. Yeah, no. So go use that. If you want to check it out. Again, you use whatever scale you want to use, but definitely guys, I do urge you, use a scale, get a good scale that's going to measure your weight, if nothing more. But if you want that extra data, RENPHO's got it covered. So I will give them that. And again, I've got nothing but great things to say about it. Just that one communication with the app. And yeah. So again, guys, it's just a tool. And I've spoken about tools in this video right here, and I keep referencing that video multiple times. But to me, again, that is the best thing to do, is to track your progress, to track your calories, to track everything. Because if something's not going right, how do you know what it is unless you're tracking it and keeping up with it? And the other part of that too is consistency. I consistently weigh myself every single day, same time, same thing I'm wearing every single day. Now I only track it. My weekly weigh-in is tracked in all my little apps and everything. But from just a consistency standpoint, I do weigh every day, because I can start to see if things are off or not and make adjustments along the way. But some people, it completely destroys them and takes them out. And if that's not for you, it's not for you. And I get that. I really do. But keep this in mind. Your scale, or your weight, the number that shows up on the scale every single week on that one day, is not your weight. Okay. Because that day, you may have a drop. That day, you may have a little bit of a surplus. You may have that extra water weight or whatever. That's where the RENPHO scale comes in handy to kind of tell you that kind of thing. But overall, I like weighing every day, because you get a generalized picture of a trend of where your weight is. Because what if you've lost all week, down, and on that Friday you weigh in, and Thursday night you haven't digested and processes and gotten rid of that food, or you're holding on to some sodium, some water weight and stuff like that. And then the scale's showing up and you hadn't lost anything in a week. When the reality is, if you would have weighed the day before or a day or two after, you would have seen that you actually lost 2.5 pounds that week. It's happened. It's happened to me. I've gotten on the scale, and the day before I was lower, or the day later, it dropped like 2 pounds, just because I was holding on to that excess stuff. And again, having a scale like this will help you determine that. But my recommendation is weigh every day so you can see your trends. But that's up to you and what you end up, really fitting in your mentality and what you can handle and all this and that. But guys, that's it. If you're interested in the RENPHO scale, go check it out. Don't forget to hit up IVRX for your GLP-1s if you're looking for somebody to get that from. Again, I've gotten off of Zepbound. I've been on the GLP-1 with IVRX, and I've consistently lost over a pound a week for the most part. Here lately, of course, it slows down after the big rush at the beginning, but 125 pounds down. I'm very, very excited. I still got a ways to go. And I will be doing my 1-year review before too long. But yeah, I'm stoked about that. If you want to see my review on IVRX and kind of a recap from them, check this video out here to watch that one. And guys, don't forget, go out there and conquer the scale. Never let the scale conquer you. We'll see you on the next one.